Hello and welcome to second part of my CopperCube slash JavaScript beginners tutorial. And in this one, we're gonna talk about variables, which are really important. So let's say you have the following task. You have three numbers like number one, number two, and number three, because I don't have imagination. And your task is you need to console log number one plus number two, and at the next line you need to console log um, let's say number one plus number two plus number three. um, so um, Values for this number one, number two, and number three are just one, two, and three. Let's put it that way. What we can do right now, using all knowledge received from the last lesson, we can just write our hello world application, change our input to 1 plus 2, since these are number one and number two. And on the next line, we just do another console log, and we just do 1 plus 2 plus 3. That's it. And if we save and run the application, we will get the correct result, which is great. But the issues happen at the point you need to modify your code, slightly modify. Let's say number one is not 1 right now, it's now 11. So every time you have this number 1 mentioned somewhere in your code, you need to change it to 11. And it's only two places here, but in the real application, it could be really inconvenient because it could be in 100 places. And you need to go through all your code and modify it. And this is not something how you want to spend your Friday evening. So let's just think about the way how we can maybe slightly like ease our life. So for cases like that, we can use something which is called variables. Variable is basically an entity which holds value of some sort of type. You declare variable by printing var keyword. It's a reserved keyword for declaring variables. Then you need to come up with some sort of name. It's good if you don't have imagination like me, because these names, they should be consistent and they should make sense. And then you can also initialize variable with some sort of value. Let's say it's 11. That way, if, for example, I'll comment this out, if you just like to use it, you can refer not to number 11, but you can refer to variable holding this number, so num1 in this case. And if you run the application, you will see that it prints out 11. It's because we holding sort of like value 11 inside our num1 variable. Cool, right? So that way we can also modify the rest of the code by just putting like number 3 is equals to 3, and then uncomment everything here and just do num1, num2, and then just you got the idea, num2, num3. That's it. And if you run it, as you can see, we still receive the correct result, which is great. But the thing is that you sort of see the pattern here, right? So this is like num2 plus num1, and it's the same here. We can make it even more sort of concise. I'm not sure if it's correct word to put here, but more convenient. We can just have another variable, which is, for example, sum of 1 and 2, call it sum 12, because it's like sum 1 of 2. And you can just do it like that, num1 and num2. Now this variable now sum 12 will hold the sum of these two values, because we applied the addition operator to them. And we can use this variable in our code here instead of sum of num1 and num2. Yay, that's it. Pretty cool, huh? And yeah, basically that's it. That's how we work with variables, and that's everything you need to know. But it's only for primitive types, because we also will cover some of not primitive types or complex types later in this tutorial. Um, and very last thing is that you can also create variables for different data types, for all of the data types which we discussed. For example, if you need a Boolean variable, you can assign its value to something. And now this equality check, which we done before, like Boolean equals to true, it now starts to make sense, right? Because Boolean variable, it can, this variable bool, it could change in some at some point in the code. So, like for example, is player alive? Is he alive or not? And we will check if he alive or not, and we will act correspondingly in our code. So now, uh, makes sense. And also, you can create string variables. For example, Esther, let's say it's hello. And you can also use this strings variable for concatenation. So let's say hello, Alex. That's my name. And if you run it, it will say hello, Alex. So the strings are concatenated. You can also use multiple string variations. Variables. Let's say like that. It's yeah. It's crossed uh, because of Visual Studio error highlighting. So it doesn't recommend you to use name variable, but basically we don't care. Um, yeah, I think that's probably it for this tutorial. And in the next one, we will actually start learning much harder things. This will be a hammer to the head, I mean, in terms of complexity. Well, see you in the next video.